The best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and great to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show, a special edition of Sports Wrap, as we present to you our If Not Then Who's for every single NFL division. We've done them over the last week and a half, and today you'll get all of them in one show. The AFC East will be where we start, and we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. But we have to start with the breaking news from Thursday that everybody's still talking about on Friday and beyond, and that is Micah Parsons being dealt from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. Look, the Packers give up 2 first-round picks, likely to be late first-round picks, and a run stopper as well for Dallas in return, which is something that matters to Dallas. But make no mistake about this. This is a turning point, an inflection point for the Dallas Cowboys as a franchise. Where does this organization go from here? What is this team going to look like, not just this year, but now for the next 3 or 4 years? What is the signal to the fan base that has been made by deciding to get rid of not just a great defensive player, but one of the best defensive players in all of football? What does it say for the future of Dak Prescott, who's a zillion-dollar cap hit on them for the next 2 years? What does it mean for his future? Yes, I know he has a no-trade clause, but what does it mean potentially for his future? What does it mean for the direction of the Dallas Cowboys as an organization? Are they even a factor this year when we talk about the playoffs? Shift away from that to what it means for Green Bay, who now has 2 of the best guys to get to the quarterback with Gary, with Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons. You pair that up with a defense that was already top 5 in the league last year. And now you'll have people talking about Green Bay potentially being a Super Bowl contender. The one thing I will say to all of that, before we get to our AFC East, if not then who, is this. Now all the pressure's on Jordan Love. They've given you everything. Now you have to step up. 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 3 playoff games ain't cutting it. So now it's up to Jordan Love to take that next step beyond the regular season stats and try to take this Green Bay Packers franchise to someplace special. All right, Sam Yarnell joins me for If Not Then Who. And if it's the AFC East, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are minus 270. After that, we ask, if not Buffalo, Sam, then who? The Patriots are plus 550, the Dolphins are plus 700, and the Jets are plus 1,800. So, Sam, I know you are Bills fan number 1, so the answer for you might be nobody. But if not the Buffalo Bills, then who?
Yeah, there are a couple of reasons why this thought exercise and beginning it with this division specifically are quite unique to me. But I think that the first question to me, obviously, when you do an exercise like this is, well, what would it take for the Buffalo Bills to not be the favorites, let's just say, in the AFC East? And the simple answer, I think, is Josh Allen. But then you get further into it, and this is the question I asked myself. Would I make the Buffalo Bills, with as much talent as on that roster and a regular season defense as good as we've seen, besides the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe, and the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL? You're talking about a team that had a historic regular season last year, the likes of which we haven't seen in decades in the National Football League, even through the multiple dynasties we've gone through in that time. So the question to me became, with a Josh Allen injury, would the Bills not be favored to win this division? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think a Mike White, Mitchell Trubisky, even Shane Buechele-led Buffalo Bills team is probably still your AFC East favorite. Really? That's just how bad this division is. But, I'll do the Max Kellerman thing here, right? Fate of the world resting on the AFC East. Martians have the death beam pointed at Buffalo. I guess give me New England to win the division, but I don't feel confident in that at all. In a first-year head coach and a key offensive piece coming off of an ACL, and your best offensive piece. Let's not mince words. coming off of an ACL injury and continuously trending down throughout his career. So like, yeah, if the Patriots can win every game 14-9, then yeah, they have the most realistic shot, I guess.
I'm going to tell you something, and I know this is going to sound nuts to people. First of all, what won't sound nuts is I agree with you. Nobody else is winning the AFC East. But we had to get this one out of the way. It's a Friday edition of the show. We'll
just news dump this one.
We're news dumping this division. That is exactly what we're doing. We're news dumping this division. Everybody's watching Trump's press conference with Vladimir Putin, and so it's fine. So I will agree with you on that. But people are going to think I'm nuts. If everything breaks right, I think the second best team in the division is actually the Jets.
I don't disagree.
But their odds to win the division are the craziest at plus 1,800. Again, to win the division. I get it. But I think the Jets, I think Miami is the same old Miami. I think there's an X factor in this division, and it's Justin Fields. That if you get primo Justin Fields, I'm telling you, if you get, we're totally making a meme out of that. If we get primo Justin Fields, if we get the Justin Fields that everybody thinks he could be, new head coach, that defense is pretty good. They've got a couple of offensive weapons. Why not the Jets as the second best team in the division? And if the death beam hits Buffalo and Orchard Park, I'll go with the Jets. There. If I have to do this for the sake of this exercise, I will say it's the Jets.
So I agree with the sentiment in that if everything goes right for the Jets,
by the way, Patriots second hardest schedule in the NFL this year.
Sure. And again, I think we're talking ceilings now, right? And if everything goes right for every team in the division, I think that the Jets could probably be the second best team, maybe. I don't know if Justin Fields is the X factor as much as a guy like Breece Hall is coming off of a down year in his first year returning from a major injury. If he can severely bounce back, and maybe that's a different way Justin Fields is an X factor in the running game. I don't expect him to throw for a lot of yards. I don't expect Garrett Wilson to get a ton of action this season, but that defense is incredible. Like, until they fired Robert Saleh last year, let's not forget how outstanding that defense is. And I know they've got guys who are a year older, but I don't know, man. I agree with you in the sentiment that if the bazillion things that need to break right for the Jets, they could be the second best team in that division.
We're talking about the AFC North and the AFC South next. We continue with this special edition of Sports Wrap as we take a trip around all the NFL divisions and ask, if not, then who? If not the favorite to win the division, then which team will? We're going through all of them in this special edition of Sports Wrap. Next up is the AFC North, and then we'll hit the AFC South in this segment as well. And if you're talking about the AFC North, it obviously begins with the Baltimore Ravens.
There's only one answer. It is the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you are putting your money on any team other than the Baltimore Ravens or Cincinnati Bengals to win the AFC North in the year 2025, just give me your money. I'll kick you where the sun don't shine.
The nether
regions. Call it a day.
Yeah.
I do not, and I know that I have to say this like every season, every week of every season of every year on this show. I do not understand the hype around Aaron Rodgers. He is talk about mediocre at best quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is like a below mediocre at best quarterback. His ceiling is about the 17th best quarterback in the NFL right now. And do I think he's going to perform up to that level throughout the entire season? No, I don't think that his 40-something-year-old body is going to stand up for itself for an entire 18-week-long season. It's really, I hate to say this. I do. It's disrespectful to the sport of football what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing this year. The way they have this roster constructed, the way they wasted some of their draft capital on players who would be very exciting on other teams. I'm really fed up with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rooney family and Mike Tomlin and all these decisions they're making. It's bad for the game at this point.
Put a pin in those comments, ladies and gentlemen. Will Sam Yarnell live to regret just thrashing the Pittsburgh Steelers on this show? I'm just saying.
They're going to end up, here's what's going to happen, Jason, and here's what's going to happen, Steelers fans, for all those of you watching at home. In 2 years from now, TJ Watt's going to get fed up because the rebuild that you're already seemingly starting but not willing enough to commit to isn't going to go right because you're not willing to commit to it. So TJ Watt's going to actually ask out, and you're not going to be able to bring him back this time. So all you're going to be able to get for TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players of this generation, is I'm going to say maybe a first and a third if you're giving up an entire year of control. Have fun with that, Pittsburgh.
By the way, me and the Watt brothers will likely have something in common. Neither of us will have Super Bowls. None of us will have won a Super Bowl. We'll have won the same exact number, and it'll likely be 0 if TJ winds up having to play his whole career out there. Look, I agree with you. It does feel like it's the Bengals that have to be the second favorite in this division. If you're not thinking it's Baltimore, then you're thinking it's Cincinnati. But, and as much as I enjoy doing this exercise, I thought of it. As much as I love to do this exercise, it kind of still feels like Baltimore's division to me. I mean, I can make an argument for Cincinnati, but that argument includes Lamar Jackson missing time and everything going perfect for Cincinnati because that defense is still a huge liability for them. And I don't see anything that I've seen so far through the first couple of weeks between training camp and the preseason that makes me change my mind on that, Sam. They're going to score a ton of points. They're going to give up a ton of points. They're going to be the baseball team that wins a lot of 10-9 games. It's going to look like softball scores. That's essentially what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be, barring something that we don't know about right now. Then in the AFC South, it's the Texans as your favorite at plus 115. Then you have the Jaguars and Colts at 3-1. Something on my microphone. Jaguars and Colts at 3-1, plus 300. And then the Titans at plus 700. It's kind of remarkable to me, by the way, that the Titans have better odds. Maybe it's not remarkable. Just looking at it, I'm just surprised that number is where it is on the Titans. I think it'd be a bigger number. But anyway, if not the Texans, Sam Yarnell, then who?
Yeah, so not just a bigger number. The Titans, of all the longest odds to win their division in the AFC, have the shortest odds at 7-1.
Yeah.
Of all the projected fourth teams in their division, the Titans have the shortest odds to win it. And I think that speaks to what my answer to this is going to be. Anybody. Like, this division is so up for grabs to me. I think there is a world where the Titans win this division to me. If Cam Ward comes out and lights the world on fire and is the passer that he's showing us that he is in the preseason, if that maintains, right? If Tony Pollard picks up the slack from Tyjae Spears that he'll miss the first part of the season, if Tony Pollard can be what he's been throughout his career, one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL, the Titans could win this division, right? If Chigo Okonkwo's a serviceable tight end, the Titans could win this division.
You're talking yourself into it, Sam. You're talking yourself into it.
The Jacksonville Jaguars take about the same amount of talking into, though. That's the thing. Any team to win this division, you have to talk yourself into them winning the division. The Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, Trevor Lawrence could come back after missing more than half the season last year, and maybe for the first time in his career, he'll be a competent regular season starter throughout the entirety of the regular season, sure. And then, with Travis Hunter, if he plays somewhat well, the Jaguars could easily win this division with all 4 of the running backs that they're seemingly going to roster. Sure, I could see that world. Maybe the Colts figure it out. Maybe Anthony Richardson finally takes the step that everybody in the league has been waiting for him to take, and Jonathan Taylor returns to being a top 5 running back in the league, and Michael Pittman takes that next step and gets that lockstep relationship with Anthony Richardson. Hey, maybe Michael Pittman's a top 15 wide receiver in the league this year, and maybe that Indianapolis defense steps up. You could make the justification or talk yourself into any one of these 4 teams winning this division division. And quite frankly, it's just about as easy, if not easier, to talk yourself out of any one of these 4 teams winning this division.
I'll tell you who I'll talk myself out on. Indianapolis. The quarterback situation there. But when I look at the division, honestly, I mean, why not Jacksonville? I'll make my argument. I know. I've been a Trevor Lawrence guy. I've been a Trevor Lawrence apologist for a long time. But here's the thing. Oh,
wait, what's that? The clock's turning to August? Yep, time for Jason to fall in love with Trevor Lawrence again.
Here's my argument on Trevor Lawrence, though. The expectations now are so low after the last couple of years. And I think that's going to help him. You know, I think we're kind of back to where we were a few years ago when he had a really nice season and got all that money. I think Trevor Lawrence could be primed for a big season. The only problem I see is who's he throwing the football to? In Jacksonville. I'm not sold on this receiving core for this football team. And that's part of the argument that I got to try and make is Trevor Lawrence the guy that enhances a wide receiving core that doesn't wow me? Not really. And I don't think he has the guys around him that necessarily make him look better. Who could challenge the Chiefs in the AFC West? We're talking about it next. Thanks for being with us on this special edition of Sports Wrap, going through all the NFL divisions. A preview of sorts. If not, then who? We've gone through most of the AFC. The only thing left to talk about is the AFC West. We saved the best for last as far as the AFC is concerned. Obviously, the Chiefs. Another trip to the Super Bowl last year. It obviously didn't end the way that they wanted it to, but they have revamped and improved their offensive line. We obviously know what Patrick Mahomes is and what he has been throughout his career. They're going to be without Rashee Rice for the first 6 games of the season because of a suspension. Still, the Chiefs have to be the favorite and are the favorite from a betting standpoint to win the division. But what about the Broncos, who a lot of people are very high on after a trip to the playoffs last year? A trip to the playoffs nobody was really expecting. Also talk about the Raiders or the Chargers. So Sam Yarnell and I discussed the AFC West. If not, then who? And now it's time for the AFC West edition of If Not, Then Who? Sam Yarnell. If not the team favored to win the division, then who will win the AFC West? So I ask you, Sam Yarnell, on this Wednesday, August 20th, just a month from my 48th birthday, if anybody wants to get me anything nice. If not the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West, Sam Yarnell, then who?
I mean, the popular pick is obviously the Denver Broncos. I think that there's just about as much justification to be made that the Los Angeles Chargers could win this division. But at the end of the day, this really does feel to me like that trendy division that seems like happens every year where everyone's got a new pick and the team that's won the division X many times in a row is finally going to lose and we're going to finally dethrone them. If you'll remember back to last year, it was the New York Jets against the Buffalo Bills. We saw how that went. So while I think it's very cute that everyone wants to talk about, Bo Nix is great and he's got all these weapons and RJ Harvey's really going to be a good back, or in the Los Angeles Chargers version of that exact same story, Justin Herbert's actually a top 10 quarterback, and Jim Harbaugh finally got his guy in Omarion Hampton, and it doesn't matter that Rashawn Slater's hurt. Joe Alt's going to slide over seamlessly. Yeah, I got news for you, folks. There's some devil magic going on in Kansas City. They're not giving up that division as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there. I don't care if they're winning the division in the last week of the season or the 10th week of the season. The fact of the matter is the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this division for as long as we continue to watch these two offensive, I don't even want to say offensive geniuses, because Mahomes isn't even a top 10 quarterback at this. He's not even a top 5 quarterback at this point in his career. These two next level football minds, and I guess that really extends more to Andy Reid than anybody, they're not losing this division.
I would tend to agree with you. I think anybody poo-pooing the Kansas City Chiefs does so at their own peril. This is a revamped offensive line. They learned from their mistakes. Unlike some teams who, basically watched last season go up in flames. I'm talking to you, Cincinnati, because your defense is hot garbage. Yeah, can we get the meme, the GIF of the dumpster going down the road on fire? That's the Cincinnati Bengals in a nutshell, who knew their defense was terrible and did nothing to fix it in this offseason, essentially, and might even
Matter of fact, they made it worse.
They might have made it worse. The Kansas City Chiefs are better this year after losing 2 games last year in the regular season. They are better this year than they were last year. I want you to let that sink in before all of you try to give me an argument for Denver at plus 290. By the way, Kansas City minus 110, Denver plus 290, the Chargers plus 330, as you allude to, the odds between the two, not all that far apart. I'm going to say something that is so crazy in the scheme of things.
No.
I am absolutely, and you know what I'm going to say. I'm not saying that the Raiders have any shot to win the division. That is not what I'm saying. I could make an argument. It might take a beautiful mind and, a whole bunch of drawings and hieroglyphics. I could make the argument the Raiders could actually wind up being the second best team in this division. I think Denver last year beat a lot of bad teams. And if not for Kansas City mailing it in the final week of the season, they're not even in the playoffs. Okay? Before everybody goes crazy about what Denver accomplished last year. I keep having to repeat this. Meanwhile, I think the Raiders, if they just get a modicum of defense, if their secondary just plays average football, I actually think this team could be fun to watch this year. I'm a Geno Smith guy. I'm not a Geno Smith apologist. I'm a Geno Smith guy. I think you can win games with Geno Smith. I don't think you're winning Super Bowls with Geno Smith, but I know I've won Super Bowls with Pete Carroll as a head coach. I know I've got Brock Bowers. I know I've got Ashton Genty, who has impressed in this preseason. I actually think they could manage to rattle off enough wins. It might be, and I got news for a lot of people here. This might be a one-team playoff division. It might, unless you believe in the idea of Denver making this quantum leap from what they were last year. And I'm just not sold on it yet. I got to see it in the regular season. Because again, I saw a team last year that beat a lot of bad teams and lost to a lot of good teams, with the exception of, one that we could point to. I'm just saying, I think any of those 3 teams could wind up being the second best team in the division. I cannot make an argument for any of them in good conscience, Sam, to win the division, though. I think it's Kansas City. I know it's if not, then who, but it's if not, because there is no who.
I agree with you. Here's what I'll say about the Raiders, though, and why I think that this is a team that's destined for 4th place in this division again this year. This is an organization. It's not even an on-field thing, right? They could go back to the Derek Carr, Devontae Adams days, and they were kicking butt and taking names, right? This organization is... It's just broken fundamentally. They can't get through an entire season without something going wrong in the locker room. And it's already started to go wrong this year. But let's take it back to 2 years ago, right? When the entire players revolted against the owner and the GM because they wanted a specific coach, right? Or before that, you had the Devontae Adams leaving because he hated the quarterback. The John Gruden thing. The list goes on and on.
The popular number on the Raiders is around that 7.5 area, by the way, just in terms if you're wondering about the win total. That's kind of where they are right now. I mean, is it a huge leap from 7.5 to 9? Not really. We're coming back. Sports Wrap continues, and so does our special, If Not Then Who, going through every NFL division. And this time around, we're focusing on the NFC East and the NFC North. Keep in mind, the big news with the Dallas Cowboys broke after we put this segment together. In the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles are your favorites. They are your favorites at minus 135 as of right now on FanDuel. The Washington Commanders come in at plus 220. The Dallas Cowboys are plus 550. I wonder if that number changes the moment Micah Parsons commits to week 1. Like, is that a bargain right now at plus 550? It could be. And the Giants, the Jackson Darts, let's go at 22 to 1. So, Sam Yarnell, I ask you the same question I have asked you the previous 4 shows. If not the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East, then who?
Anybody.
No, come on.
Anybody. You can't
use that answer again.
I will get to my answer eventually, but the fact of the matter with this division is that since 2003, 2004, we haven't had a back-to-back winner in this division. So do you think for the first time in 22 years, we're going to have a back-to-back winner? Call me crazy. I'm going to say no. A couple of things I don't like about this Philadelphia Eagles team this year, right? Obviously, the sticking out like a sore thumb aspect of it is the Saquon Barkley thing, right? Everybody knows the history of what multiple parts of Saquon Barkley's last season will contribute to this season. You get over 400 carries in a season, you fall off a cliff. The next season, you get over 2,000 yards in a season, you're going to struggle to get back to 1,500 the next year. So I'm selling Saquon Barkley stock wherever I have it. I think the Landon Dickerson injury is a massively underrated injury to the most important element of this entire 22-man unit, right? Of both sides of the ball, the offensive line is the heartbeat of this Philadelphia Eagles team. It is the reason that they are so successful. And now you're taking one of your most accomplished offensive linemen and having them deal with a meniscus injury that, is something very tough for an offensive lineman to feel the wear and tear of throughout an 18-game season. Couple that with the fact that you've got another team in this division coming off of an NFC championship berth, right? And on top of that, you've got and I hate that I'm saying this about Jerry Jones' football team, you have got one of the most criminally underrated football teams in the land in this division as well. So yes, I am fearful for the Philadelphia Eagles not just winning this division, Jason. I'm fearful that they'll make the playoffs again this year. This is a completely different defense than we saw last year. And I tried to tell people this during the postseason last year and after we were doing our postmortems from the Super Bowl. You are never, ever, ever going to see a football team in the National Football League with the current budgetary restrictions built the way they are that is as talented or quite frankly as good as the Philadelphia Eagles were last season. The amount of contracts that they ran into being hits and the amount of changes that they suffered on that defense, you just can't redo it.
No. I would tend to agree with a lot of what you're saying. I do think Washington is the team in that division that is most likely to win. I'll cut right to the chase. I think it's the Commanders if you're talking about who winds up winning that division. If you don't believe in Philadelphia, with the Detroit Lions being the favorite to win the NFC North at plus 160, I ask you. With the Packers at plus 240, the Vikings at plus 290, and the Bears at plus 550, by far and away the most competitive of all the divisions. Actually, it's not. There is one that's more competitive that we'll get to next week, at least as of right now in the odds. But I ask you, if not the Detroit Lions at plus 160, Sam Yarnell, then who?
The Chicago Bears.
Wow.
This is the same exercise that I could have done yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, when you can make a clear and obvious argument for any team in this division. But here's why I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. Obviously, I like Ben Johnson quite a bit. I think I established that pretty well on the show last year. I think that he can do a lot with Caleb Williams. Like, Caleb Williams, again, I think is the biggest variable in terms of all the quarterbacks in the NFL heading into this season. We could be going into week 8 talking about this guy. Is he really scraping to be a top 7, top 6 quarterback in the NFL? Or we could be going into that same week saying, listen, are they going to extend this guy beyond the first contract? I mean, what are we doing here? Was this just a waste of a first overall pick in Chicago? I think that, to me, the Bears present the best opportunity because they've shown as a franchise at least in the very short term, definitely not over the long term, but very much so over the short term, that they're willing to invest in this football team, especially right now. So I'm going to take that investment and I'm going to put it on a plus 550 to win a division that the defending champion just lost both coordinators, right? The team that came in second place last year has a different starting quarterback this year. And the other team in front of the Bears has a quarterback who just had surgery and seemingly can't stay healthy for an entire season no matter what happens to him. So yeah, give me the Chicago Bears, Jason.
I don't think it's a bad pick, because here's the thing. We know what the Lions are, and obviously they should be the favorite to win that division. I am not putting any of my hard-earned money on the Minnesota Vikings, on a quarterback that I've seen play one full preseason game and hasn't played a meaningful game in 3 years. Like, I cannot put my hard-earned money. I can't. As little of it as I have these days, I cannot take that money and in good conscience put it on the Minnesota Vikings. I think we know what the ceiling of the Packers is. And I think we've kind of seen it, which does take you to the Bears, which I think of all the teams outside of the Lions, who we obviously all agree is the favorite to win this. But if I have to pick a team of if not, then who, which is this exercise, I think it's the Chicago Bears. We're headed to the NFC South and a preview there next. Welcome back to this special Friday edition of SportsWrap, where we're going through all of the NFL divisions in anticipation of football season, which begins in less than a week. We're asking the question, if not, then who? If not the favorite to win a particular division, then who could we see winning that division? Some of them, it's hard to find an answer. And the NFC South is kind of an interesting one, which we're going to get to here in just a second with our friend Sam Yarnell, because, yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the favorite, but you've got a Falcons team that's obviously feeling good with their decision to have Michael Penix become the starting quarterback, still with Kirk Cousins looming in the background, which is sort of bizarre. And Cousins could be out there as trade bait if some quarterback on a contender gets hurt. And then Carolina, which is on the come and certainly showed signs of improvement last year as well. And we all kind of know what the Saints are. We also still have the NFC West to get to, which we'll do in a couple of minutes. But right now, focusing our attention on the NFC South. And again, if not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are favored to win the division, then who might it wind up being? We talked about that on SportsWrap. Only 2 divisions left, Sam Yarnell. Just 2 divisions left in our series called If Not, Then Who? Where we go through each NFL division, tell you who the favorite is, and then try to come up with a rationale for if not the team favored to win the division, then who would win the division. Today we focus our attention on the NFC South, Sam Yarnell, and in that NFC South, we take a look, and rightfully so, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are your favorites to win the NFC South this year. Over on FanDuel, they're going off at minus 105. The Falcons are plus 220. The Panthers are plus 410. And the New Orleans Saints come marching in at 13-1 plus 1,300. So Sam Yarnell, as I have done every day for the last 6 shows prior to this, I ask you, if not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then who? About what I expect.
Nobody? I don't know. Can I bet the no, as I used to say on the program? I don't know, man. This is tough. Far and away the worst division in football. I don't think people would disagree with that.
Worst division in football. I want to marinate in that for just a moment.
Please.
AFC. I mean, the other one, the AFC South is pretty close.
The AFC South is bad.
Pretty close.
It pales in comparison to the NFC South.
Just saying.
I may have said the AFC South is the worst division in football.
Yeah,
We did the
we should
if
go
not,
check the
then
tape.
Who on them.
We should go check the tape.
I might have to retract that statement because what has to happen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not to win this division?
First team to 9 wins the division.
No. First team to like 6.
Oh, come on.
I think
it's
maybe
not gonna be 7. Come on.
I don't. The Falcons are going into their first season of a full Michael Penix season, right? The Carolina Panthers, they're still rebuilding, and that's great for them. The New Orleans Saints are in purgatory, and that's not great for them. I say purgatory because I'm not sure if we're allowed to say hell on the show.
No, you can say
they're
hell.
in hell.
You can say hell.
Yeah, the Falcons are like the only possible option, Jason. And I just physically can't sell myself on Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, not to mention Michael Penix. Not to mention Michael Penix, Kyle Pitts, who I did just draft in a fantasy draft yesterday.
Why?
And when I drafted him, I said to my counterparts in the meeting, I said, I'm drafting this player because I hate myself.
You really do. You are a glutton for punishment because every year I think is going to be the year Kyle Pitts breaks out and it never happens.
And Kyle Pitts isn't a tight end on a division-winning football team. So what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? It's exactly the question we should all be asking. I'm surprised the number on Carolina is as good. 350? That number feels very generous. They feel like more of a like plus 500, plus 600 team to me.
I want you to think about it like this, because we have already done this division that which I am about to refer.
Look, it is a team that the defense is getting better on that team. And they do have a favorable schedule. So there is that.
Okay. All right. But hold on. They are just as big of a favorite to win their division in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers I'm talking about now at this point. I'm off the Falcons. They're so relevant lists to me.
Oh, boy. We're recording that.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are as big of a favorite to win their division as the Kansas City Chiefs. I might start putting in, I'm going to put in the parlay right now. Let's see what it pays out, Jason Page. Buccaneers, Chiefs, plus 295. Give me that. I'll be happy. I'll meet you in November when that cashes, maybe early December, but I'll pay for Christmas gifts with that money from that nice plus 295.
I actually like that. Actually, I think that is sage advice you have just given to our audience. We haven't mentioned the Saints. Do we have to? Should we? Can we?
We can mention them. So there was actually interesting news about the Saints at the end of last week that we barely got to talk about on the show. It wasn't quite about the Saints. It was more about Arch Manning, but that's who the Saints are headed for seemingly at this point. That's the only thing we could talk about him at this point. It seems like if the Saints aren't the worst team in football, Arch Manning is going to spend another year at Texas. If they are the worst team in football, Arch Manning will be a Saint the same way his grandfather was.
Look, for Atlanta, you're pinning it all on Michael Penix Jr. Good luck. We wrap things up with If Not Then Who. The NFC West is next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a special edition of Sports Wrap. If Not Then Who, NFL edition. Don't forget, Sports Wrap weekends. Check your local listing for time and schedule. Subscribe to the podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, as well as our YouTube channel. But now, one last division to get to. It's the NFC West, where the San Francisco 49ers are obviously the favorites to win the division, but a lot of teams nipping at their heels. The San Francisco 49ers are currently the favorite at plus 155. The Rams are 2-1 to win the division at plus 200. This according to FanDuel, of course, the unofficial sportsbook of Sports Wrap. Unofficial, why? They don't pay us. Arizona Cardinals are plus 380 and the Seahawks are plus 500. So, Sam Yarnell, I ask you the question on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. If not the San Francisco 49ers, then who?
You're ready? You're ready for this one?
I am.
Because I do think it will be the San Francisco 49ers. But if it's not them, give me the Arizona Cardinals. I'm
The
taking the
flying
bait.
Kyler Murray's?
I'm doing it. So as much as I want to believe this is going to be the most competitive division in football, as it seems like we're always talking about this division being, I don't think it will be. I keep convincing myself that it won't be, actually, more and more. As it was last year, right? I mean, last year it came down to two teams in the last week, sure. But in the reality, you had two teams that were completely out of it by week 10, 11. I think it's the Arizona Cardinals this year, not so much for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm buying them to take a small step. I'm more so betting against the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks for the purpose of this exercise. Listen, the Los Angeles Rams have a quarterback who we were getting deep fake theories about him being an AI robot essentially at this point. So I don't trust that quarterback situation at all, considering the backup to him is some guy who, the wide receiver who they just marquee signed in Devontae Adams, literally 2 teams ago asked for a trade out of that place because of this quarterback. So as much as I like their defense, and I think Kyron Williams is an exciting back, I don't think that the passing offense is going to be there to compete in this division for the Rams. The Seahawks, to me, are just too mangled, right? It's too many parts put together that aren't going to add up to be anything, really. And when you look at this Arizona Cardinals team, I'll trust Marvin Harrison after letting us down at the beginning of his first year. Really took a step forward in the second half of of his rookie season, right? They've got a ton of offensive weapons in Kyler Murray, in Trey McBride, right? And that defense isn't anything to shake a stick at. They're good on both ends. They've got they've got a great linebacker in Zaven Collins, and Budda Baker's still going to be there to hold down that secondary. So I am buying into the Arizona Cardinals. Again, for the purposes of this exercise, I really think that the San Francisco 49ers, because of the ease of their schedule, are poised to win this division this year.
How quickly we forget. The Rams basically played the Super Bowl champs to a draw last year in the playoffs. I mean, the Rams are a good football team when healthy. I'm buying in on the Rams. I don't like the number from a betting standpoint, so I'm not going crazy about that. With them at plus 200, I wouldn't bet it because there's not a lot of value there. But I actually think of all the divisions we've done, this is the one where I could most see a non-favorite to win the division. And I know it's close, 155 and 200. It's 1A and 1B. But I actually like the Rams to win this division, Sam. If I'm going in on a team, give me the team with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. And I know there's this whole idea Stafford's going to miss games this year. There are 3 things in life you can count on: death, taxes, and Matthew Stafford missing some time for some length. Okay. And you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who will come in and probably be all right for a game if you need him. But I actually think it's the Rams. I think the 49ers are in disarray right now. And I think it's one of the more underreported stories of this entire training camp. It's certainly from our perspective, because we haven't talked about it a ton, been underreported and under-discussed, if you will. I think the Niners are a mess. I wouldn't be shocked if they're the 3rd best team in this division when we get to the end of the year. I don't think they're a playoff team. I'm very down on San Francisco right now with everything that's taken place in terms of the roster and sort of the construction of this team and where it is right now. It feels like this group, as currently constructed, is on its last leg for me.
Wow. I feel the complete as a non-Brock Purdy guy, famously
you are
on
famously
this show.
Yes, you are.
For me to be the one sitting here saying no, buy in on the San Francisco 49ers is crazy.
It is.
Yeah, no, I think
I agree.
I think outside of losing Debo, you're looking at a team that is going to get one more effort out of Christian McCaffrey, but they showed you that they've got the run game around him to not necessarily need him to win football games.
Yeah, you could be okay in the run. You could be okay in the run game without him, but you're not the run game without him. That's the thing. I think you become more dependent on Purdy in that spot. This team has always been based on the sum of the total parts, and I don't think the total parts are there. And that's going to wrap it up for this special edition of Sports Wrap. We thank you for being with us for the last hour as we went through all the NFL divisions and asked, if not the division favorite, then who could win that division? Don't forget Sports Wrap weekends wherever you can find it. Check your local listing for time and schedule. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday for more Sports Wrap. Bye-bye.